You are one of the leading voice for equality here in India. As someone who has broken glass ceiling and has a journey which has spanned across different roles, both personally and professionally, how have you personally experienced the progress on gender equality over time?
I think that my generation has had it fairly easy compared to my mother's. Gender equality or equity for that matter is an issue which is much discussed now, deliberated upon by policymakers, made essential by economists who now want nations to thrive by ensuring that if a policy, or for that matter if a fiscal rule has a gender component, it is more likely to succeed than a policy which is bereft of the gender idea. So I think generationally gender justice has become easier as a issue to deal with, not only by women but also men. If you look at my parents' generation, and if you look at issues like buying a sanitary pad, now that is not something that men would be a part of. Sanitary pads would get hidden in newspapers, in black plastic bags. Many still do it of that generation. My generation possibly had fathers be an equal part of the menstrual hygiene conversation in a family. My daughter's generation wouldn't even think twice about such a conversation that a male parent needs to have within a family system. So I think not only perspectives of women but also men have changed, and it does great injustice when we look at the realm of gender justice only from the prism of whether those looking at it are women. I think it's equally a man's issue as much as it a women's issue.
I was just looking at the data on women in STEM, especially in education. It's striking today that 40% of STEM students in India,
46% graduates are women.
Women now,
Yes.
It's really, I mean, that's a huge amount of progress.
Absolutely.
Even in
I
about
think
2 to
that
3
what
decades.
we have not managed to do is make a financial case for gender parity in STEM. We have made a financial case for gender parity in the labor force. We have made a case as Indians for gender parity in enterprise, which is led by women. We are slowly making a case for women-led enterprise where you need more and more funds coming in from VCs. But there is yet a case to be made financially for women in STEM, because we look at women in STEM from a perspective of entry-level administrative scientific backup. We do not, I believe till now, look at possibilities of helping women turn their scientific ideas or innovation into enterprise. That is still an area of challenge.
In fact, actually, this has been an area of focus for us, especially because we do have a lot of plants. A lot of the work that we do require STEM graduates. We started off with this program called the Betiyan scholarships, where we now have at least about 100 institutes where we provide the Betiyan scholarships so that we get them.
What we tend to do as a society and as thought leaders is look at the women's issue from a STEM perspective post grade 12. Yeah. And we are trying to fix the problem at the college level. Okay. If we start looking at the problem earlier from grade 8 onwards to 10, and for that matter from grade 10 to 12, I think you will see a huge influx of young ladies in technology and science-based institutions. We had, when I was Minister Education, done a project with CBSE. We had chosen close to 500 girls from across the country, from very, very poor financial backgrounds. We had given them a loaded up digital device for competitive exams. We had retired teachers and school principals who were available on a 24/7 helpline with them. And our experiment was to see how many of them actually go into technology institutions. And I'm happy to tell you 100% success. And then it became part of the process. Today, the National Education Policy has a gender inclusion fund specifically for the first time in the history of our country, which is a part of the National Now pledge. Since the 1960s, a legislation was pending in our parliament with regards to medical termination of pregnancy. We in the government were extremely elated when the Prime Minister himself led from the front and ensured that that piece of legislation of medical termination of pregnancy at 24 weeks was passed in both houses of parliament. Now, what is great about my country, and I am preening now as an Indian woman, is that no man in my country spoke against that bill. Every man in my country supported it, be it a politician or a citizen. And I think that is what is unique about our country. The fact that now we have in service the first ever female tribal president, that the Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces is a lady from a very, very poor family in a village in Odisha in India, gladdens my heart, because that's an inspiration not only for young girls in my country, but for women across the world.
We truly believe that we are a force for growth and a force for good. We are actually 185 years young, if you will.
Well, I'm 25 years young with PNG. Right. They say life comes a full circle, and I did my first PNG, my first assignment ever as a public personality with PNG. I believe you were in charge then of that particular product.
No, I was just a project manager.
No, I think that just a project manager and what you are today, and just a model and what I am today, speaks volumes about the PNG experience. I also believe that companies come and go. Legacies are made when you make an effort to go beyond the product and become a part of the people. Yeah. And I think that's what you've done.
So actually for us, some of the things that we have been able to do over the last many years has been, and it's not just about female alone, but it's about, how do we drive equality and inclusion in the true sense of the word. I'll give you an example. We have this policy called Share the Care, where the maternity leave and paternity leave is equal. So we believe that men have a role to play in caregiving.
As long as the men who are taking leave ensure that they are not lounging about at home and making the women work, I'm happy.
Yeah.
I don't look at issues of inclusion from the lens of profit. I don't look at the issue of inclusion from the lens of corporate responsibility. I think it's the humane thing to do. Be it a corporate leader or an administrator or a politician or just a global citizen. If you're not inclusive, the question you should pose to yourself is, are you human enough?